Is it a nutrition problem or a mental health problem? What's up, Active Lifers? Welcome back to the Active Life Podcast. I'm Dr. Sean Pastuch. I'm your host. I'm joined in studio today by my friend Joelle Cavanero, the founder and CEO at Level 10 Coaching, the company that we at Active Life send all of our nutrition coaching client referrals to. On the podcast today, we discuss the topic that I dropped as the hook in the intro. Is it mental health or is it nutrition? We talk about where Joelle finds amazing coaches. We talk about what it's like to be a CEO. We even talk about some stuff that just has to do with our social environment outside of business. I know you're going to love this podcast. When you do, head to Joelle's Instagram, give her a follow, tell her that you enjoyed the podcast, thank her for coming on so she comes back and does it again, and head to wherever you're listening and give us that 5-star rating and share it with a friend. Let's get to the show. Joelle Cavanero, welcome back to the Active Life Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I'm
good to be back.
Thrilled to have you. It's good to have you back in person, in the flesh. It's nice. Last time was lunch.
Last time was lunch. And I think the last time that we podcasted here, not quite this location, but together on the Active Life podcast, was a way different chapter of life.
Yeah, I take full credit for your business. That's what I tell everybody.
It was actually just your podcast that launched me into success as a business owner.
If you're out there and you're A-list and you want to be A+ list, you got to come on the Active Life podcast.
That's it. It's the secret sauce.
Well, no, when you came on last time, it was 2019.
Yep.
We were still in the old office. It was right pre-pandemic.
Yes.
You were in the midst of a major transition in your life, going from being a full-time teacher to running Level 10 Coaching full-time online on your own. And you were in the moment of, do I hire? And if I hire, what position do I hire? And where do I find all of those things? Yep. And now what does your business look like now?
Now we have several people working for the company. Man, it's so weird to even just reflect back on that and think like, when we sat down, we were like, I think I might need a hire. I think that might be the next step. And so I did. I started to hire, started to delegate, brought on a lead programmer to start programming for our clients. Even though my background is in exercise physiology, I freaking hate writing training programs. So the first thing I was like, what could I delegate? Someone else writing the training programs, because I hate that part. So that was my first hire. Then the second hire was bringing on another assistant coach that could coach nutrition. So I brought her on. Within a month, her roster was full. Brought another coach on. Within a month, their roster was full. Brought another coach on. Within a month, their roster was full. So I think we ended up going from one coach, myself, to maybe 7 coaches that first year, hired another 2 the next year, another 1 the next year, and all that, lots of different in-between steps there, but have 10 coaches now. Coincidentally, people are like, oh, is that why it's level 10? And I'm like, no, that's just where we kind of landed right now. We have 10 coaches. One day it'll, probably be more. But so now we have 10 coaches ranging from exercise physiologists, PhDs in exercise science, registered dietitians, sport nutritionists, strength and conditioning coaches. And it has scaled beyond my wildest imagination.
Well, so I want to learn about that, because whenever somebody says to me, I have a nutrition, whatever, we refer to you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Why do you think your company, it grew like that? I imagine whenever I talk to people about this, I think that the story that people hear is someone just drops into the DM and says, I want to work with you. And there's just so many of them that you just have to hire new coaches. Is that how it happened?
I think that, quite honestly, it was a combination of a few things. One, I am not new to sharing content online. I've got over 10 years of skin in the game, so to speak, in terms of sharing accurate, reliable, credible information. And that was always what I built my business on. It was not about building my business based on abs or butt selfies. It was about building a business based on education and knowledge, and really ultimately in the hopes of preventing people from going down a kind of dark spiraled path in, relationship to how they view food and how they view exercise, because I, had a very disordered relationship with exercise and fitness and nutrition for a long time. And that's when I started to go the coaching route. So I think, one, people buy and people purchase services from other people that they like, know, and trust. And that's something that we talk about a lot from a business standpoint. Anytime, people are asking about business advice or business mentorship, something that I always come back to is building like, know, and trust with your audience. And so I've spent a long time building like, know, and trust. So I think that's a piece of it. Another thing that was interesting was the pandemic hit. And we launched Level 10. So what was previously a one-man show and was Joelle, Samantha Fitness, that was rebranded, so to speak, into Level 10. And I just had kind of decided, hey, if I'm going to hire, I want this to be something bigger than me. Like, I don't want it to be the Joelle, Samantha show. I want it to be this empire. I want it to be something that other people can connect with that's not just my name. And so Level 10 was born. 10 is an acronym for training, education, and nutrition. I don't know if you ever knew that. Now you know. And so what was interesting was we officially launched Level 10 2 weeks into pandemic shutdowns.
So
April, yep, beginning of April 2020. And I was nervous because I was like, man, gyms just shut down. People don't want to spend money. They're scared to spend money. Some people are losing jobs. How's this going to go? And it wasn't really that I doubted myself. It was more so just like, no one knows how this is going to play out in terms of pandemic. And I always feel like a little guilty saying this, but the pandemic was really great for business. The pandemic was really, really great for the online fitness coaching industry. And, when I look back, I'm like, well, yes, gyms were closed, but now you had a global health pandemic where people were starting to pay a little bit more attention now to their health and their fitness. We were starting to see that COVID was related to comorbidities and that people who exercised and ate well and slept well were not getting as sick as people who did not do those things and did not have positive lifestyle behaviors. And so what came to be was that people were, home and not commuting anymore. And so they got some time back into their days. They were locked in their house, so to speak, for, days, weeks, months with food all around them. And they had more time to dedicate to their exercise. They had less commuting. And a lot of people had more disposable income. Of course, if you didn't lose a job, a lot of people had more disposable income because they weren't going out to dinner. You weren't going out and taking trips. You weren't spending money the same way. And so we found that business, like that first year, 2020, the growth was exponential. And I think that a lot of that was because of the nature of the pandemic and people wanting to take their health a little bit more seriously, looking to credible and reliable sources of information. And then I think another piece of it was community. Like people wanted community during the pandemic. There was never a higher rate of attendance on our community team Zoom calls than during the pandemic. Like people just wanted to connect with other people, have accountability, and they had the money and the means and the desire to do so during the pandemic.
How do these people physically enroll though? Were they coming to you in the DM and saying, I want to be a part of Level 10 over and over and over again? Or were people asking you questions?
You're talking about the client or the coaches?
The client.
So mostly the way that we have acquired clients has been organic reach. And people are always a little surprised when I talk about that. But it's just always how we have gotten clients.
I'm not surprised by that. What I'm asking though is one of the things that I think we do really well, and I'm curious if this is also what you've done, is somebody doesn't necessarily realize they're posting a comment underneath the post. They're sending a DM with a question that obviates if we're really going to help this person with what they're asking about, we need to help them become a client or at least elevate this to a phone call to determine if they should be. Is that what was happening? Or were people sending you DMs like, where's the link?
Yeah, more so that. We have never, I won't say never, but certainly if someone is asking a question in the DMs and we're just having an organic conversation and it leads to, hey, maybe coaching could be a great option for you. That does happen. But I wouldn't say it's been like a strategy of ours per se to like, every comment, every DM, hey, let's grab that person. It really more so has always been, and during the pandemic too, just sharing information, sharing, do's and don'ts, so to speak, sharing evidence-based protocols, sharing what we're seeing come up in research, sharing, what kind of coaches on our team. Oh, we just added a PhD in exercise science. Oh, we just added a registered dietitian. Oh, we just added a functional nutrition coach. And slowly we started to, bring on a variety of different coaches with different backgrounds and different specialties. And I think that ended up appealing to a wider and wider, subset of people, because we were able to serve a lot more people based on who we brought onto the team as a coach. And so mostly those applications, people that are applying to work with us, it's typically coming from, someone clicking a link to apply to work with us. Hey, does this sound like you? Does this sound like something you could benefit from? Or someone sees a post and it just really resonates and they're like, yep, I need that. And they're clicking on the link in the bio, or they're clicking.
How often do you share something that says the call to action of go ahead and click on that link?
Like in my stories,
Yeah.
I would say a few times a week.
Okay. So I want to share with you one of the reasons why we have so much confidence referring to level 10 is because of your option to work with mental health.
Yes.
And whether someone ends up working with the mental health side of your business or not, I think that the presence of it indicates an understanding that you have about the connection between, okay, that broccoli is better for you than a cookie, and you know that steak is better for you than the cheesecake. Why are you choosing to eat the thing that you know is not in your best interest? That's not a nutrition education question.
Yes.
That's a mental health question.
Yep.
That is what gave me the most confidence in the beginning to say we should, besides your friendship and just knowing the integrity that you bring, that's what led me to saying, okay, we can refer everybody to level 10. Where did that come from?
Yeah. So transparently, the mental health piece was not, so for some background here, we have a licensed psychotherapist at level 10, and we also have a mental health educator at level 10. We also now, just in the last few months, brought on a maternal mental health practitioner. So now we have someone that specifically specializes in pre and postnatal maternal mental health with our
they
clients.
do that, like you're not supposed to be thin when you're carrying a baby.
Yeah, like maybe it's not the right time to start a diet if we're 12 days postpartum, stuff like that. And I mean, I could go on a whole tangent about pre and postnatal health, but
you don't need to. We can just go to Facebook groups and get all the information that we need.
Just pop into your local mom Facebook group and you'll get all the information you need.
They won't let me in them.
No, so when we launched Level 10, we didn't have that mental health offering. It was still, very training, nutrition, education based. And then we put our coaches through a health mindset coaching certification. And that was really great. And it helped the coaches a ton in terms of asking the right questions, asking some of the harder questions, digging a little bit deeper, kind of like motivational interviewing. And then my dad and I were having a conversation one day, because we started to see myself and my coaches started to see that there's so much more, to health and fitness, that goes into this. There's so much more than macros and the right training split that is affecting how clients do, or their motivation to follow through, or, are they self-sabotaging? Are they having issues with emotional eating? Is their depression so debilitating that they can't get themselves up and go to the gym? And so my dad and I were chatting one day, and my dad is a licensed psychotherapist, and we had this conversation over like, do you think there's something we could do here? And
who brought that up? Did you ask him or did he ask you?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember. I think I brought it up. Like, do you have any interest in this? And he was a little like, I don't know. He was right about to retire, right, from being a school social worker for 30 years. So he's like, I'm about to retire and you're asking me to like start a new job. He was like, waiting to just bask in his glory and, the Florida sunshine and be done with working. And I'm like, let's give it a go. Maybe we offer this to like a few clients. We'll see if we get any bites. We'll see how it goes. And it took off, and our clients were all about it, and they were really excited about it. And he has people that he still sees who, like when we launched him, so to speak, for Level 10, there are still people working with him, years into this now. And it's been really, really cool. His background is as a licensed psychotherapist, but he also has a fitness and mental health integration specialty, which is really cool because it allows him to pull in aspects of nutrition and fitness and supplementation into mental health. And my dad's kind of this weird niche because he is a therapist, yes, but he was also a competitive bodybuilder. So like he gets macros, he gets training, whereas sometimes we have clients who, let's say, see a therapist outside of level 10 and they're like, my therapist says I shouldn't be tracking macros, that it's disordered and it's going to lead to an eating disorder. And we're like, okay, like there's a disconnect here. So I think there's also this weird advantage to working with a therapist that's within your health and fitness coaching company because they get it. They get it a little bit differently than a therapist who does not maybe understand the fitness, nutrition, macro counting, realm the same way that someone else would.
How do you tell a client that they need or that you believe mental health would be best for them? That's a touchy conversation.
Yeah, it is. I think our coaches have walked a really good, they've struck a really good balance of having those conversations with their clients. I think first and foremost, our coach and client relationships are pretty solid. When we get someone on a consult call, one of the things that we're gauging beyond their goals and if we're a good fit and whatnot is which coach on our team would be a good fit for them. And part of that is, of course, related to like, what are the coach's specialties and what are the client's goals and what are their preferences? Do they want to track macros? Do they not want to track macros? Are they a competitive runner or have they never stepped foot in a gym before? Things like that. But we're also paying really close attention to personalities. And a lot of our coach-client pairing comes from like, is this a really bubbly person? Are they kind of quiet, a little bit more reserved? Like we want to pair a coach and a client so that they seem like a really good fit and we want to help them really feel like there's some connection there. And so that ultimately they can foster a really healthy and great client-coach relationship. So I think it starts with having that great relationship, and then the coach is able to get to a point where if the client starts to divulge some things in check-ins that are kind of like, hey, I could kind of chat this through with you, but it would be beyond my scope to take this any further or to act like I know entirely how to help you through this. Have you ever thought about working with a mental health professional that could help you explore these a little bit further? And I think that's usually how it ends up transpiring, is a client starts to share things that might be like, ooh, maybe not a red flag yet, but like maybe a yellow flag, right? Where they're like, we could touch on this, but it would be beyond my scope and morally irresponsible for me to guide you further on this. We do happen to have a licensed psychotherapist here at level 10. Would you be interested at all in me connecting you to? I think that you'd really, have a great experience with Scott and at least having a consult with him.
I like that.
Yeah.
When you brought up the figuring out who to pair them with,
yeah,
it made me think of a game that Kim and I recently saw on Instagram that we brought to her family vacation and played. That was a great time that I think we should do when we're together. It's mildly inappropriate, so I think it's perfect for the podcast. Have you ever played Guess Who?
Yeah.
Okay. Imagine playing Guess Who.
Yeah.
But you're not allowed to describe the person by their physical attributes at all.
Oh. Okay.
It becomes a lot of fun.
Interesting.
And at the end, you can use your imagination, but there are questions that come up like, is your character's dad proud of him? Probably not. Okay. I'm going to knock these people off of my board. Like all kinds of totally inappropriate questions for stereotypes. And in the end, you end up with oftentimes the wrong person left on your board.
Right.
But then the reveal is even more fun because you're like, you think that person... So we should play that next time we hang out.
Okay.
Yeah, we should play that next time we hang out.
Yeah, that's cool.
We'll bring it.
Yeah.
So what's it like having your dad work for you? I'm just imagining, like, I love my dad. We have a great relationship. We would argue about the color of the carpet just for the sake of having something to argue about.
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel very lucky and blessed to have the relationship with both of my parents that I do. But it is not as messy as you might think.
Well, I don't think it's messy. I'm just
yeah,
curious.
it's
I happen
not.
to love
It's
your
been
parents.
really. I know you do, and I know you've met them, and they feel the same way about you and Kim. Well,
Scott's up in my Instagram. We need mom.
He's
to get
in the
on
DMs.
He doesn't hop into the DMs.
Okay,
he's on the comment thread.
All right,
which is just as good.
Yeah, that's fair. Shooting up that engagement for you. Yeah,
exactly.
So it's been really easy, honestly. It's what we do is fairly separate. You know, there's obviously like a client practitioner privilege, so to speak. So I don't know who of our level 10 clients he sees. He'll let me know if he's full or not. He'll let me know how many spots he has available. But we don't specifically, obviously, talk about, you know, particular client issues. You know, what is cool is, you know, we have calls every month as a team. We have like client coach community calls with everybody. And so one of those calls every month is a maternal mental health call. One of those calls every month is a mental health education call. One of those calls is just a community call with the coaches. And so typically I'll go to my coaches and say, hey, what are you guys seeing come up in check-ins? What are clients struggling with? Is there any common theme that we could have Scott come in, my dad come in and talk about on a mental health call with our clients as a whole?
How many clients show up on a call like that? Just curiously.
Not as many as they did during the pandemic, which is what I was saying before. It's fairly low attendance, honestly. Okay. Like 20 people max.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20 people's good.
Yeah.
Listen, when we tried client calls, we were getting 3.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And
there are times like holidays, we'll get 2 or 3 people come. Yeah. I mean, definitely.
Well, every day's a holiday at Active Life.
Yeah. Like it honestly depends on the time of year. I feel like we see some greater turnout and some lesser turnout depending on like summer months versus like Thanksgiving versus Christmas time, whatever. But anyway, we'll go to the coach and say, hey, or is there any kind of common theme here? And so I just asked this last Friday to my coaches, like, hey, Scotty's doing November's mental health call. What are we seeing come up in check-ins? And a few of the coaches mentioned, like, we're starting to see some of that, like, seasonal depression start to kick in where, like, summer's over. We're in big transition phases back into fall. People are, you know, trying to get settled into a new routine. A few coaches mentioned that they felt like a lot of their clients were having some intrusive thoughts. So I went to Dad and said, hey, November's call, can we do intrusive thoughts, managing intrusive thoughts?
What's an intrusive thought?
You know, I didn't know that either until I was a postpartum mom.
That's why I'm asking the question. I've never been a postpartum mom.
So, as a postpartum mom, what I can say about intrusive thoughts, is they're really nonsensical, illogical, so to speak, thoughts. They're not impossible, but they're kind of illogical thoughts about, you know, I'm laying in bed and I just heard a noise downstairs. I wonder if that's someone coming into my house to kidnap my children right now. Stuff like that. Like, yeah. Did that take a different turn than you thought?
That's not where I thought it was going to go.
For me, like postpartum intrusive thoughts are, it's kind of a branch of like postpartum anxiety, where the intrusive thoughts are about for me, the safety of my children. Other people have intrusive thoughts about hurting themselves or their children.
Interesting.
That's not where my mind has gone, luckily. But I do get some intrusive thoughts like, what if the house just lights on fire in the middle of the night and the girls are down the hall because their rooms are on the opposite end of the house, and like, what if I can't get to them in time and then my children just die in fire?
Have the first half of that thought all the time.
Which part?
The what if the house lights on fire?
Oh, yeah.
The what if somebody breaks into that? All of these things, because of the way our house is situated.
Yeah.
I'm like, should we move things around?
Yeah.
Like, should
feng shui.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Little safety feng shui.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, that's a lot. Like, that's irrational. You're insane. I don't go to the point of like, and then this would happen, and then my kids would be dead and gone.
Yes. It's when you keep taking it further that those thoughts are more intrusive. And I've actually talked to the maternal mental health practitioner at level 10 about this. And she said, it's okay that some of those, you know, intrusive thoughts are there. She said, it's when those intrusive thoughts prevent you from living life. Oh. Like, now you won't leave your house and you won't leave your children home with anyone because you're afraid someone's going to come into the house and kidnap them.
That is not
now those thoughts are a problem.
When I'll tell you a story. I think you might know the story, but you can tell me. When we first had our first daughter, we went to my cousin's wedding in Wilmington, North Carolina. She was about 2 years old, and totally forgot to get a babysitter for her. Like totally forgot to set it up. And so I realized that we're going to either have to take this kid to the wedding, which is not going to happen, or I'm going to have to come home early, or Kim's going to have to go home early. That sucks. So I stopped to get a smoothie just randomly, and the girl behind the counter seemed sweet. So I was like, hey, do you want to babysit our kid? She said yes.
Your wife allowed this?
Yeah.
Shut up.
And then the chick no-showed, so we had to bring our daughter to the wedding. Lesson learned, don't pick up babysitters at smoothie shops who you've never met.
Oh my God. First of all, never in a million years would I have allowed that personally. So Kim is ultra trusting of you. Especially your first kid?
Yeah.
How old was she?
Almost 2.
Oh, no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I barely want to I barely want to leave my children with anyone for a few hours.
Dude, if you'll babysit my kid,
Sean's like,
I
found this gas station at the full service gas station, and I asked that guy to watch my kids.
Don't knock it till you tried it.
No, See, I don't know. I mean, God bless.
At this point, a lot of our friends are like, not a lot, I shouldn't say a lot. One of our friends has alerted us that her daughter is now old enough to drive to our house.
Oh.
And her daughter wants to earn money on the side babysitting. I know her daughter since she's like 5 years old. So I'm like, yes.
Yeah, done.
The thing is, that daughter isn't mature enough yet to put our daughters to bed. So, and if one of the kids woke up and came downstairs and saw,
she wouldn't know what to do.
They'd be like, what are you? Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a daytime babysitter, which we need.
Yes.
Like I need another hole in my head. We very seldomly need a daytime babysitter.
You need a nighttime babysitter.
I need someone who can come over 6 o'clock, play with the kids for an hour, put them to bed. Yes, my kids go to bed at 7 o'clock. At least that's when we start the process. And I come home and they've not only put the kids to bed, they've cleaned the kitchen, everything is orderly, and they've given us a report. So if you're that person, whether you work at a smoothie shop today or not,
DMs.
hop into my DM. I'm looking for you.
No experience required. No
None.
resume required.
None.
You could just be a smoothie shop cashier.
Well, listen, when we hired Amanda, who was our family nanny for 5 years, a godsend.
Yes.
We hired her for me based off of one question. It was, if I gave you $1 million, how would you spend it? And I asked that of all of the people who came to interview to be nannies. The first one was like a 60-year-old something woman. I would retire and I would go and live out my days in North Carolina or whatever. Next one, what would you do? Oh, I would go on vacations all the time. I would go see this place. I would go see that place. I would do this. I would do that. I would never have a home. I'd be somewhere else all the time. Great. Out. Third person, I would invest it into my photography. I really want to be a photographer full time. That's what my dream is. So it would take me to cool places that I can get photographs of interesting things and that nature. I'm like, okay, well, that's our hiree right now of the 3. And then this last one comes, who I didn't even want to interview. And Kim was like, we need to do one more. I said, fine, we'll do one more. So she comes in. It was Amanda. I'm like, I give you $1 million. How would you spend it? And she says, I would open a daycare out of my house. I was like, you're hired. Done. I don't need to say anything else.
All right, I guess she likes kids.
She was phenomenal. She has her own kid now.
I know.
She's like a member of our
remember
family.
when she was getting married and then she got pregnant and
now
she needs a nanny.
Yeah, now she is right. So just all that to say, like, for me, I think we need a lot less information in general than we like to believe that we need to make good decisions. Yeah. And all I needed to know is, if you didn't need the money, would you still do this job? And when she said yes, without knowing that that's what she said yes to, I was done. I didn't need to interview anybody else.
That's a good clarifying question. I would not think to ask that to a nanny interviewee.
Well, now you have one. You can also you can use questions like that.
That
with your
was
own
not
stuff.
a question I asked in hiring our nanny. I can confirm that.
I believe that. What kind of questions do you ask in hiring staff?
So interestingly, we have found all of our staff through social media. Some
That's not surprising.
previous clients. No, I guess it's not so surprising. I mean, like when we're looking for a coach, we straight up like post an application. We're like, if you want to be coached at level 10, here's the application. But don't apply if you're not this, 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 and this. And
What are this,
usually
and this?
this, and this is are revolved around experience. Personally, I know not everyone likes to hear this. I don't hire green coaches. I don't hire people that have never coached before. I want experienced coaches. I want educated coaches. I want to see that you have done continuing ed and you didn't graduate school 10 years ago and now you haven't done a lick of any sort of education since then. And
like the Long Island training. I've been doing this 20 years.
I've been doing this forever.
Yeah, but you're not good.
Yeah, but you suck. So I like to see continuing ed. I like to see some sort of background, educational background. And that doesn't mean that every single coach at level 10 has a master's degree in exercise science. They don't. Not everyone does. Some do, but some don't. But I want to see experience. I want to know what kind of clients you like to work with. I want to know about your coaching style. And then we go through case studies. Like our application is not just like, tell me about yourself. How old are you? What's your email address? It's like, here's a case study about this client with PCOS who's having trouble losing weight, who's having some this, and this. How would you coach this? Here's the check-in that she submits this week. Send me back a voice memo of how you would respond to this client. And then myself and my assistant coach, my head assistant coach, we're combing through applications, we're combing through responses, we're listening to voice memos, we're doing multiple interviews. And so I want to know that you're going to mesh well with the team, with the rest of the coaches. I want to know that you offer something different, ideally, than the rest of my coaches. Like I said before, we kind of range in specialties and who is sort of the ideal client for each one of our coaches. They all differ a little bit in their education and their experience. So probably the next coach that we would bring on at level 10, I'd want to see them have some sort of different education or experience that they could, appeal to a new client that we're not already serving.
What strikes me about that, I imagine, well, I'm curious if you have a similar perceptive problem to us that I've found not to be a problem, but is surprisingly not a problem. If you want to hire someone who's great,
yeah,
and develop them to be even better,
yes,
there has to be a question of like, why aren't you doing this for yourself?
Yep.
And what I've found for us, at least in Active Life, is many of them are doing it for themselves and they're successful doing it for themselves and they feel alone.
Yep.
They feel like they're on an island and they want to be a part of something that's bigger than themselves and they want to contribute to a team and they want to have the support of a team.
Yes.
And that's why they come and work at Active Life and forego what they were doing previously.
Yep.
Is it the same for you?
Yes. Mostly, yes. I will say a lot of people do want the infrastructure that a team provides, right? You come in as a level 10 coach and your job is just to coach.
Right.
You no longer have to be the businessman, owner. You no longer have to worry about lead generation. You no longer have to worry about taking your own sales calls. You no longer have to worry about lawyers and contracts and, Black Friday promos or whatever else, is going on in the CEO day to day. Your job is just to coach, right? You come in, here's your client, we'll hand them to you on a silver platter. Here's the coaching software that we use. And now you go in and you just do your job as a coach. That appeals to a lot of people who don't want to necessarily be a business owner anymore. So you're right in that when you're looking for a coach, yes, you're looking for someone educated and experienced, but you're also looking for a niche person who's successful enough to do it on their own, but really just doesn't want to do it on their own anymore. Yeah, we've run into that too.
And then what is the expectation, if any, of staff at level 10 to message out the things that level 10 is doing on their social media, in their emails, in their daily conversations, in their networking?
Like in terms of marketing for level 10 as a whole?
So for example, this podcast,
providing content.
This podcast is going to come out, right? We're going to provide you with a bunch of clips that you can share.
Yeah.
And this is not about this podcast. This is just making an example.
Yeah.
Are they expected to share the stuff that you're sharing to promote yourself?
No.
Are they expected to share anything about level 10 at all?
Expected? That's a good question.
Thank you.
It's not a requirement.
Right.
But it's a soft expectation, I will say.
Okay.
that if there is something, a piece of content that any of our coaches put out, the majority of us, really everyone, we have some coaches who are more present on social than others, but certainly when we see a message that is, whether it's a post or a reel or whatever else, a podcast episode that is resonating kind of within the team, most people are sharing it. So, if Coach John puts out a post and I'm like, oh, that's great. People need to see that. I'm sharing it to my own stories. Coach Shelby sees me do a podcast with Coach Brad and is like, oh my gosh, you guys have to listen to this. It's about immune health and nutrition and whatnot. And she'll post it on her stories. So I wouldn't, like I said, it's not a requirement. I'm saying soft expectation because obviously as the business owner, I want to see that our team members are excited and motivated to post about level 10 and their peers and their coworkers. But it's not a hard requirement. Right. There's no rule like everyone better go repost this.
Right. It almost feels more like an indicator of morale than an expectation of job requirement.
I want them to want to do it on their own.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Well, one of the things that I struggle with the most as the CEO at Active Life is balancing what does it take for one person to be a high performer in their role as compared to what it takes another person to be a high performer in their role? Because I want everybody to be a high performer.
Yeah.
And, I look at the CEOs who've been wildly successful in the world, the Elon Musks, the Howard Schultz, the Phil Knights, the men who I look to and I'm just like, those guys are fucking on it. They have a variety of different ways that they treat their staff, right? Elon Musk expects you to be in there at midnight on Christmas Eve because the problem we're trying to solve is more important than being there in the morning for your kids on Christmas. I don't share that. And I don't think that you have to be that way to be wildly successful. Right. Howard Schultz wasn't that way, and Starbucks is wildly successful. Phil Knight kind of was that way, but not with everybody. Do you ever find yourself in the mode of like, wondering how to get the most out of people and not being sure if you're doing it?
Yeah. I think that probably I guess I can't speak for every CEO, but I think in some capacity, we all struggle with the like grasping that, first of all, no one is going to care about our business to the same degree that we do as the business owner, right? I think that our coaches love level 10. I think that they love their jobs. They're fantastic coaches. I think they think I'm a decent boss. And
I know, I'll show you some of my DMs.
They're trying to leave level 10 and work for Active Life. No, but I think that there's definitely always this underlying, like, am I doing enough? Do they think I'm doing enough? Are they happy where they are? And something that we started implementing maybe after like the first year of level 10 was year-end reviews. And I started giving them like a questionnaire to fill out at the end of the year. And then those meetings, they'd fill out this questionnaire and then we'd have a one-on-one meeting together to review everything about their professional goals, about their personal goals, about things they want to bring to level 10, about any feedback they want to provide to me or for the company as a whole, or things that they want to get involved in, projects, etc. And after like the first year, the coaches were like, hey, can we do those mid-year too? Like, we really like that. And it was really nice to have a sit down with you and provide more feedback and hear what we're doing well and what you think we could work on and so on. And so then we started doing mid-year reviews and end-of-year reviews. And so I think that, having those has been really helpful because it also allows me as the CEO to not be guessing, and just allow me to have honest conversations with my coaches to say, hey, is there anything you think we could be doing differently? Is there any type of particular service or package or product you think you could bring to level 10? Is there a skill you have that we haven't tapped into yet that you think we could bring to level 10?
That's a risky question. It's a good one.
Yeah.
And it's a risky one.
Yeah.
I think I'm really good at this. I don't.
Yeah. Luckily, I haven't run into that.
That's good.
I think our coaches are generally self-aware of their strengths and weaknesses. What's interesting is I always find, and I'm not sure if you guys do something similar, but I find that part of the questionnaire is like open-ended questions. And then part of it is asking them to rank their, punctuality, their communication, how they respond to clients, their timeliness, their presence on community calls, things like that. And I find that our some of the coaches, not all, but some of them rank themselves so much lower than I would rank them on certain things. And then I hop into that meeting and I'm like, why did you beat yourself up that whole review? Like, you're to me, this is your strength, this is your strength, and this is your strength. And you marked two out of three of those as your weakness. So it's always just really interesting to view and to see, you know, from the ownership perspective and the sort of more managerial perspective. It's interesting to see even how your coaches view themselves, and that's why I think those meetings are so important.
I'm with you. One of the things that I regularly share with my mentor and with our leadership team is that I believe that we are in the best position we've ever been at Active Life in terms of the quality of our team, their buy-in to the mission, and their understanding of everything.
Yeah.
Like I'm spoiled, and it's amazing. And one of the things that we do, unless if there's a need that we just genuinely believe we want to hire from the outside for, is if we have a position opening, we ask people, we have a job opening, these are the attributes of the person who we think would like this job. Do you believe you have these attributes? Raise of hands. Great. These are the tasks that are going to go into this job. Do you believe you would like doing these tasks? Great. This is what the job pays. Do you think you have the attributes and the skills and the desire to do those things for this pay? And if nobody answers yes, then we go to the outside market. Because we don't want people to just take a job for money. And we don't want, we want to make sure that people are raising their hands for things that they would genuinely enjoy doing for very little energy spend.
Yep.
A question I have for you around that is, have you ever found yourself in a position where you're allowing somebody to ascend within the company, and they reach a point that you're like, I don't know what the next ascension would be, and you're extremely valuable, and I want to keep you here forever?
Yes.
What do you do?
It's a good question.
Thanks. Okay, fair enough.
I'll let you know when I figure it out.
Okay.
No, I have been in somewhat of that position before, and fairly recently. And what I have started to do is, one of my coaches has, excelled into, a new position on the team, and they make an additional salary for that new position that they're in. And they desire continued growth. And so
financial growth, responsibility growth.
Financial growth, yes. I think they have gotten, they've started to bring in a lot more leads on their own.
Okay.
And 99% of lead gen comes from myself and my content. And so there's a coach on our team who brings in a lot of leads now and is generating a lot of leads on their own. And so there's now come conversations of, hey, well, when your roster is full, is there interest in, instead of just capping your roster and telling those people, no, I'm not taking anyone right now, can we get on a sales call with those people still? Because you're obviously a representation of level 10 and they're bought into you and what you're saying, and probably the company that you work for in some capacity. And so is there interest at all in, once your roster is full and capped, us saying, hey, let's get on a call with those people and try to bring those, those leftover, so to speak, the overflow of people from your roster, and see if we could disperse them to another coach on our team who's potentially a good fit. And so that has now been the next step in, you will be compensated for essentially referring your leads to a different coach at level 10.
You said earlier that no one's ever going to care as much as you as the owner about the business. I agree with that. What about the mission? Do you think that's also true for the mission? And do you guys have a clear mission statement?
I think that everyone is on the same page about the mission.
Do they care about it as much as you?
I think so.
I think that's what makes a successful company.
Yeah.
If you said no, it would make me rethink my position, because I know that you guys are successful. I know that your staff is very happy. I've met them. I've been around them.
Yeah.
I think that it'd be useful for business owners and leaders in businesses to understand the people who are working in that business might not care as much about the viability of that business as you do, or the profits of that business as you do. But they need to care about the mission of that business as much, if not more, than you do, because otherwise the only thing keeping them excited is the financial reward for the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
And that ends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
I think that they care about the mission, and I think that there's also, I mean, to be frank, my coaches are paid well. As I have a lot of friends in this industry, and as far as I know, I am on the very high side of what my assistant coaches are paid.
Like $1 million a year, yeah?
Yeah, $1 million a year, exactly. And so I think that the financial piece is a part of why they feel valued and how they feel valued. I think that's important, and I know you feel the same way about, educated and qualified trainers being paid enough to make a living. And I feel really strongly about that too. I also have really high expectations of my coaches in terms of the way they coach, the way they speak to clients, and, not boxing ourselves into this mold of, a client asked you to get on a call, or you saw that a client sent a check-in that just is really loaded with information, and I expect you then to say, hey, let's hop on a call. I have high expectations of them in terms of the way they treat clients, the way they treat each other, the continuing ed that's expected of them. They're given a continuing ed stipend every year.
Is this stuff all written down? How you expect those things to happen?
Yes.
Okay.
It's part of their contracts, actually.
And what do you cap coaches at in terms of client load?
So every coach is allowed to choose their own max, because I have some coaches who, like prime example, right? So we have 2 coaches on the team that are more on the integrative functional nutrition side of things. So our clients who are like thyroid, gut health, autoimmune issues, hormone health issues, who require extra like gut health protocols and hormone protocols and specific supplementation protocols and elimination diets, things like that, those kind of more extensive cases, go to those specific coaches. Well, typically those clients are higher need clients in terms of time and attention. So those 2 coaches, for instance, have smaller roster sizes because their check-ins typically take more time.
Does that affect their pay?
Their roster capacity does, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do they ever run into issues where they're saying, look, I'm taking more complicated clients. It's taking me more time by virtue. Maybe we should charge these clients more money for their service?
Yes. We're in the process of developing a new package right now just
that.
for that.
Look at that.
Yeah, you're ahead of the game. So
I didn't know that, by the way,
yeah,
people. We did not discuss
I swear,
that.
yeah. You just like teed that up for me. But no, we're actually in the process of that right now, where we have like our standard health and fitness coaching package, and we find that those clients who are coming in with the PCOS, the Hashimoto's, the Crohn's flare-ups, whatever it is that we're trying to manage and get to the root cause of, and they're working with the registered dietitians and the functional nutrition coaches, it's been kind of harder to fit them into like the typical level 10 coaching mold. Right. And so we're in the process right now, it will launch in 2024, but we're in the process right now of building out a specific functional nutrition coaching package that will include lab work, testing, supplement protocols, et cetera.
You're going to partner with a lab?
Already are.
Nice.
Well, the 2 coaches / practitioners that I have on staff are already have practitioner status and can order those labs.
And they're able to review them regardless of the state someone comes from?
Yes. The only issue is certain states won't let you ship home testing.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Listen,
New
but
York.
there's ways around that.
Yes,
there's a company who I'm having shipping me a genetic testing.
Okay.
It's basically the way this woman described it to me. She's a startup and she wants my review. She wants my input. Her thing is she's like 23andMe, Ancestry.com, those kinds of companies. What they're doing is the simplest way to describe it is they're reading a sentence phonetically. Mm. And so if your genetic code is a sentence and it phonetically reads, they don't pick anything up. But her company, I forget what she called it, but they look at every letter of the sentence.
Interesting.
And the punctuation of the sentence. Because she's like, because you could have something that's written by a second grader that you can read and understand that actually is an indicator of disease or future disease by virtue of it being misspelled, mispunctuated, all of those kinds of things. I'm, of course, giving a metaphor. It's not actually misspelled. And hers goes in, looks at every single letter, and then tells you what your predispositions are, which I found really interesting. Yeah. There's one state in the country they can't ship to. New York. Mm-hmm. But if your address is another state, and you say, but please ship this to New York, they can do that. So that's what we had to do.
Wait, so you could still put down a New York address?
So I had to say, this is my address.
But can you ship it there?
which was in Florida, which is
Okay.
my parents'
Right.
apartment in
Which
Florida.
is what I do too. Yeah.
And then I said, please ship it though to this address where I am right now. And they're allowed to ship it there as long as I can say
That's weird.
I'm gonna do it in Florida.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do it there, but I have no association with this address whatsoever.
Right. Right.
Yeah, in the past, I've had to ship lab kits to my parents' house in Florida and then either have them bring it home with them or ship it to me from Florida back to New York.
Gotta love bureaucracy.
Pain in the ass. Yeah.
Joelle, anything I didn't ask you about? I have no idea what time it is or how long we've gone. It could have been
I don't have
25
watch
minutes,
on.
could have been 3
Yeah,
hours.
no clue.
What'd you say? 51:24. That's pretty good. That's a decent
shabby.
mental clock.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do it again. Next time we talk, I want to ask you about the same question I asked Sam Miller, which was, is the entire nutrition coaching industry only relevant because the food industry has stopped being a food industry? And I'm curious what you say. I'll give you a few months to think about your answer.
Okay, yeah. I'll noodle on that for a few months and get back to you. I have
appreciate
thoughts
it.
though. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Joelle Samantha, or the company page is at Level 10 Coaching. But yeah, pretty much on the gram. Not cool enough for the TikTok kids. Too old for TikTok. Too young for I don't know.
TikTok.
Facebook.
All right, we got to get dinner or dinner, lunch,
Yeah.
or a weekend, whatever
We
it is.
can find a babysitter.
Well,
We
yeah,
can
whatever.
find a night babysitter.
Yes. Otherwise,
Yeah.
we'll do a daytime.
Yeah, cool.
Turn pro. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Active Life podcast. Please remember, give us a hand, rate it, review it wherever you listen to shows. We are on a mission to humanize the healthcare industry by professionalizing the fitness industry to empower the individual to live a life unlimited by the way that their body looks, feels, or performs. If you are inspired by that mission and want to jump on the wagon, find us anywhere. Active Life Professional on Instagram, Active Life RX on Instagram. Come to me personally at Dr. Sean Pastuch. We want to welcome you onto the train. We want you to be a part of the mission. We want to offer you the opportunity to pursue this right alongside us. We're inspired by your effort, and we hope to help you in your journey. Turn pro.